So welcome everybody. This is the Industrial Internet of Things, the New Frontier session. So what this is going to work today is I'll start off today's session, which is a 90-minute session with a presentation, and then we have two speakers after that, and then we'll have a panel where we can do questions and answers. Oh, thank you. So we'll do that. We'll hold all questions till the end. So we've been talking about and interacting with a lot of our clients about the Internet of Things, and what's different or what's new, and is it new or is it something we've been doing forever? And one of the main messages that I've come away with is that it's really a difference in approach. It's a different thinking that's going to let you take advantage of the Internet of Things. Because we've got potentially new service models, new products, new ways of making products, new business processes that can be enabled by some of these technologies. And yeah, we're going to see new competitors in the space, as well as new partners and different workers potentially, or maybe different ways of working with your workers. So it is going to change the world, and it's going to change it significantly. So in order to take part in that, you need to be thinking a little differently. So what is an industrial Internet of Things thing? What's a thing? What are we talking about here? Well, it's an industrial asset, but it's also a platform for new applications and services. And it's something that you can manage remotely. This thing is going to be part of an ecosystem, and it's got to be secure. So that means it's got some local capabilities for computing and communications. It's got to have the ability to monitor local sensors and drive actuators, as well as run analytics or agents and applications. And of course, stream data, which is one of the first things a lot of people think of. We had a workshop yesterday, and we still are honored to have today some members of some of the key industrial Internet of Things and Industry 4.0 groups here at our forum. So we had a workshop where we featured them yesterday, but they're still around. So track them down, and these are folks representing Industry 4.0, Industrial Internet Consortium, and Smart Manufacturing Leadership Coalition. The big drivers that we're seeing right now for the industrial Internet of Things, number one is reduced machine or asset downtime, and number two is more rapid service response. So right now, the low-hanging fruit is improvements in uptime and maintenance, things like that, but also process performance. This is also a big one. So what kinds of areas can this industrial Internet of Things space impact? Well, things like uptime, like we just mentioned, and operating performance. But also, it can improve the workers' lot by addressing some of their needs. It has potential to improve safety and risk management, and logistics is another big area for this. And we've been talking about a lot of these concepts and improving these things, often incrementally through concepts like asset lifecycle management or manufacturing operations management, supply chain management, all throughout the automation and enterprise world. So, but it's a different take, a different way of thinking about some of these things. So let's look at some of the technologies and architectures. This stack shows kind of starting from the bottom, the industrial Internet of Things involves smart sensors, embeddable communications and computing, network technologies, cloud computing, analytics and visualization, software like workflow and BPM and execution, things like that, modeling and simulation, mobile devices, and industrial applications. And that's kind of just tapping the surface. Did I mention analytics? That's very important. if you start at the bottom with the assets that we talked about, then you have to have some communications and control, some kind of a platform to connect those things. And then once you've got all that in place, you can start getting the payoff with applications and analytics. And you can extend those things out to enterprise applications, third-party services, throughout your value chain and to your people as well. So the key is this technology enables business process improvement. So what we've been talking about up till now is a little bit captured in this first maturity model. And that's the asset capabilities view. So most companies today, look at their assets and maybe don't have any kind of intelligence or connectivity for the most part. Or maybe they're instrumented and you can connect to them in some ways. But many companies are already moving towards taking at least some of their assets and connecting them in such a way that they are software defined or smart or autonomous. So these are the new dimensions of thinking about assets. And with these new dimensions come new possibilities as well. So in this view, the smart asset is at the bottom. And we've got things like the analytics and applications and connectivity platform up above it with the notion of remote monitoring and services on the top. So a lot of this is a little bit of a conventional view of Internet of Things. So what's different? Well, there are some differences there. But in this environment, we also expect that there are going to be some significant differences along the supply chain dimension. So this particular view starts with a smart warehouse and maybe has some kind of smart truck or forklift to bring you the parts that you need when you need them. And the components themselves may be sourced in such a way that they have a lot of onboard intelligence, and maybe those parts can interact with the production machines and tell them, I need some holes drilled here, I need this kind of operation, and it can also inform this machine about what's been done already and what kind of tolerances I need. Or maybe you do that without a smart component, but with a component that you use a smart carrier so that you can have a similar kind of a model. And as long as there's all this intelligence in the systems and the carriers and components themselves, then it makes sense to have them interact with the metrology stations in the same way and maybe pack them up in smart containers for shipping. Well, let's not forget the workers, because the workers also can experience quite a new world in manufacturing with things like augmented reality and better collaboration, smart tools, video presence, so things like remote access to experts, and location services and things like that. All these things we've been talking about need to be aware of and interact with the rest of the plant ecosystem. So all the plant systems and assets are also in the loop, need to be in the loop, as well as certain third parties who may offer services of one kind or another, and of course the business systems as well. And then finally, in many cases we'll be producing smart products or connected products in these plants. And these products, are going to have a life of their own, so that they're also going to be connected. Maybe you have third parties connected to them, and they're going to be connected back to remote monitoring and services in many cases that you provide as a manufacturer. So that's kind of a messy slide, but it's the new world that we see coming rapidly upon us. Now this is a stylized version of that slide, so it's a little harder to understand all the details, but they're all here. And it's sort of got baked in the middle a technology stack, and around the outside the various kind of connected operations that you can improve or think about improving by implying new business processes. So I know you've seen this diagram. I just wanted to explain how it came about, because I really do think that getting here and understanding some of the changes that we see in the factory are an important part of what we want you to take away. Another dimension to think about is new service models. So we're seeing a shift that we expect to only accelerate over the next several years from buying products and then buying services associated with those products to buying a kind of a product service hybrid, or some will call it product as a service. So the notion here is that instead of buying, the outcome of a particular kind of a pump or compressor or something, I buy the results directly. And that means that my asset provider, my compressor provider, or whatever it may be, is providing me the air instead of the compressor, and guaranteeing certain service levels and things like that. So it has new product hardware and software requirements, and to be able to support that, typically you want to have some kind of instrumentation so you can tell how that asset is behaving out there, because it's up to you to keep it running at some remote site. So it's data and information intensive. It involves conceptually thinking through some new service delivery metrics and models. You need some new competencies and new expertise. It's disruptive to the marketplace and to your market, but if you don't do it, someone else will. And another way to think about that is to think about these connected intelligent products and their role potentially, in your plant in the various ways we've talked about, but also throughout the life cycle and throughout the supply chain. So there's a lot of complexity in this slide, and I don't really have the time to go through all of it, but the concept is that a lot's going to change, not just one part of one plant. It's many things are changing at once, because this is a powerful set of technologies that's widely applicable. So that brings us to this maturity model, which is the services dimension. And most companies today, do some sort of conventional time-based or break-fix model for their maintenance, or maybe some of the more advanced ones are doing some condition monitoring, often based on walking around and gathering data periodically. There is some remote monitoring and diagnostics that's been happening in some industries for a while. But we see more and more of that happening. We see, as this more instrumentation and more data is available, the capability for new and different services, and even for moving to that asset as a service or product service hybrid model that we talked about earlier. And key in that is that it fundamentally transforms the nature of the relationship between the customer and the supplier. So that instead of, we talk about, my supplier is my partner, but this makes it real in a different way. So I've got a couple of just use cases to go through, because I get asked about this a lot. So in the first case here, we see a cement plant where they've started taking the data from their equipment, moving it to the cloud and applying some analytics, and then from that triggering workflows to send a technician out to maintain the assets. Okay, it's pretty basic, nothing really radical, but it's an Internet of Things use case. And they can also use the same data set to inform their reliability engineer, so he can go back and look at the processes and improve the whole thing. So that's all good. So that's first case. Another example, kind of similar to that, is an oil platform. Again, we get the data from the equipment up to the cloud. In this case, the service staff at the oil company is looking at the analytics and predicting a seal failure on a water injection pump. And again, that triggers a workflow, excuse me, but in this case, you know, that workflow identifies that, wait, we don't have that seal at the rig, so first we better ship it out there, and then we better schedule this thing so that our next maintenance cycle, we'll change it out. So net result of all that is that they avoided the failure and saved $7.5 million that they estimate due to downtime. So they didn't have the downtime, and they just kept running. If you don't have that kind of a solution available, then you're going to want something like this. This is a collaborative operations solution from Cisco. What it is it's a common place where you can share desktops and data feeds and applications and videos. So if you have a problem someplace remotely, you can get experts from around the world sharing by voice and by computer all kinds of information, so you can quickly understand the problem, resolve it, and come up with a plan to get it fixed. Another example, in mining, it's a simple little example about tire monitoring. Some basic components, you know, we use the cloud and analytics to predict the tire failure. But in this case, we notify the tire OEM, the local dealer, so they can come out and fix that thing. We notify mine operations so they can reschedule things if necessary. And this allows them to change a tire at a safe location and a safe time. They can avoid risk and downtime and expense. And you know, if necessary, they can redeploy other assets so they can keep things moving on schedule. And my final example, I'll come back to where we started with the compressed air station. Here we're monitoring temperature, pressure, and delivered air volume and machine status and other things, and streaming that to servers. But the servers are at the compressor manufacturer. And that compressor manufacturer staff is visualizing the asset performance and predicting machine health issues. And then they can go back to their clients and have them send a technician, or they can use another workflow to manage that in a different way. So these are all variations on the theme, but you see there are a lot of the similar components being deployed in one way or another. And that brings us to the last maturity model here, and that's what I call the solution completeness model. So we're in a place right now where a lot of the Internet of Things solutions that you read about are parts and pieces. You know, you got to buy a board here and a network there and another analytics tool. And that's a bit of a challenge for anybody to take on all that stuff, and you kind of need the whole solution set to make this work. But we're moving, you know, we see lots of companies that we've been talking to here are moving up the staircase here and connecting their devices, offering more applications or a whole solution, or even thinking about when do I need to start having this available as a service. So in summary, the industrial Internet of Things has the potential to deliver innovation in products and services and business models. It can help us with energy efficient business processes, improving productivity, and increasing visibility. There's still some challenges, and number one always on the list is cybersecurity, so we won't ignore that. But the key thing for many of us here today is that we don't really know how all this works yet. So we encourage you to experiment and learn, get ready, try out some technologies, bring in some experts, start developing a plan and some partners to help you go forward. Just a little bit of a plug here for our blog and newsletter, which you can see here. It's bit.ly/IIoT blog. And with that, I conclude my remarks. Thank you very much.